Hi, welcome to another episode of How to Do Atkins Low Carb. And my name is, of course, Kent Altena. And yes, again, I am wearing a blue shirt, but this time it's a blue shirt with a reason. Tomorrow is the Living History Farms day race. And like I said in my Day in the Life of Bull Wolf video, it's absolutely the funnest race that you can do. And it's the one day I look forward to each and every year. Tomorrow my daughter's running it with me. And you guys can keep your Boston Marathon, your Chicago Marathons, and your New York Marathons. For me, my running year would not be complete if I did not run tomorrow. Today's episode has to do with a question that I received in a private message from one of my viewers, and the private message went as this. I just read about you on the Atkins diet and watched some of your videos. You're definitely an inspiration to me. Thanks. My two questions are, how long did you stay on the Atkins induction phase, and did you have any problems with your cholesterol getting too high? And I've dealt with the first question before about how long do you stay on the induction phase, and just for those that haven't seen those videos, it's been about a year on and off. But the reason for this video is the second half of that question, cholesterol. Now everyone knows if you eat too much saturated fat, your cholesterol gets too high. Is right? No, wrong. Shortly before I started the Atkins diet back in 2004, I had my cholesterol checked. At that time, my total cholesterol was 198, again borderline, and my LDL, my low density lipoproteins, were 148, and my high density ones were only 35. My triglycerides level were at 135, which is again in the more marginal or borderline range. After only a year of being on the Atkins diet, and every year thereafter I've had my blood work also done, and my blood work has consistently stayed in the excellent range. My total cholesterol has dropped from 198 to only 153. My low-density lipoproteins have gone from 148 to under 100 to 95. My high-density lipids have gone from 35 to 58, which are astronomical, which is a very good increase. My triglycerides have dropped from 135 to only 43. Most commonly, they always compare your HDL, good cholesterol, to your total cholesterol, and that's the number that they use to determine if you're in a good range or not. And for that, ideal is 0.4. Thereby, you divide your HDL by your total cholesterol, and your number should be 0.4 or higher. And what should be considered as borderline is 0.24. Mine, however, is 0.61, and the higher the ratio is, the better. And this ignores somewhat the fact that not all LDL is the same. There is a growing belief inside the medical community that there's good LDL even and bad LDL. The good LDL is a large puffy low density lipoproteins, and there's also the more dense, more compact LDLs, cholesterol. Either way, my number in comparison from my HDL to my total cholesterol is fantastic. It's 0.61, and my doctor couldn't be happier. However, there is also a new growing belief that it's not so much the comparison of your HDL against your total cholesterol, but against your triglycerides levels. In fact, there was a Harvard study that reported that the high triglycerides alone increased the risk of heart attack nearly threefold, and people with the highest ratio of triglycerides to HDL, the good cholesterol, had 16 times the risk of heart attacks as those with the lowest ratio of triglycerides to HDL in the study of 340 heart attack patients and 340 of their healthy same-age counterparts. The ratio of triglycerides, therefore, to HDL was the strongest predictor of a heart attack, even more accurate than the LDL-HDL ratio. And I'll put the quote where I got this quote from inside the video notes. And therefore, the more precise triglycerides HDL ratio, high or ideal, is considered 2 or less. High is 4, and much too high is anything over 6. Well, mine happens to be not only less than 2, it's 0.74. So again, it's in the absolutely best range that it possibly could be. And it's common knowledge that the Atkins diet not only raises the HDL levels, but it also dramatically drops the triglycerides level, which should put you in the ideal category for both the HDL ratios to the total cholesterol ratios, as well as the HDL ratios to the triglycerides ratios. Most people forget that the origin of this diet is actually from a heart doctor. Dr. Atkins was a cardiologist by trade, and he knew what he was talking about in dealing with his heart patients. And that said, there have been a numerous. So, anecdotally, my triglycerides and cholesterol story is a fantastic story to keep retelling. But one story does not define the whole diet. Maybe I was just an exception to the rule. However, what has been proven more often than not the case is that I am not the triglyceride. What has been proven more often than not that I am not the exception to the rule, and that most people see a dramatic increase in their HDL levels and a decrease in their total cholesterol levels. In fact, Atkins diet made a recently big news in the New England Journal of Medicine with the comparison of the low carbohydrate approach to the Mediterranean diet to the low fat diet. And the low carbohydrate group, I quote, consumed the smallest amount of carbohydrates and the largest amount of fat and proteins and cholesterol, dietary cholesterol that is, and had the highest percentage of participants relative reduction of, and I quote, the ratio of total cholesterol to high density lipoproteins was 20% in the carbohydrate group and 12% and only 12% in the low fat group. Therefore, the ratio level that I talked about earlier about HDL to the total cholesterol was more dramatically improved in the low carbohydrate group than it was in the low fat group. That is not the only study that proved the effectiveness of the low carbohydrate diet to decrease the total cholesterol level and increase the HDL cholesterol level. Eric Westman, in a 2002 study, demonstrated that and I quote, the serum total cholesterol level decreased by an average of 11, as well as the low density lipoprotein cholesterol level decreased by a factor of 10 milligrams per deciliter. The triglyceride level decreased by 56 per deciliter. The high density lipoproteins cholesterol increased by 10, and the cholesterol HDL ratio decreased by 0.2 units. There were no serious adverse side effects, and the possibility of adverse. Therefore, the total package of what should be going down, the triglycerides, the LDLs, the total cholesterol, were going down, and the HDLs were going up, improving the ratios, both decreasing the bads and increasing the good. So overall, this is pointing at there should be no concerns about cholesterol level with the Atkins diet. Well, that concludes another episode of How to Do Atkins Low Carb. I want to thank this person for commenting. I've received a lot of comments recently, and I've tried to answer each and every one as soon as I could. I appreciate you all watching and commenting and caring enough to make your voice heard. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.